Just initially, as I'm observing this writing chair, I noticed that the child is displaying his writing on a document camera. The children are seated in front, and so the setup is great.
Now, a lot of you people might wonder why I love Muncie so much. Are you one of those people? Well, read my piece. You will find out. It is so much more quiet in the mornings because here it is so annoyingly loud with the trucks roaring and construction drilling. Muncie is a break from New York. The second reason is there is so much greenery, and here there is a spa. And you can walk to your friend's house, and here, no, not without people trying to kidnap you. You can bike anywhere, and here you would not last 5 seconds. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for sharing.
I think you should be like more persuasive than informative.
Okay, and how can you be more persuasive than informational?
Like, I think you can like persuade people like better because like kidnapping doesn't really like, happen. It happens in New York, but it's not a big thing. Like, big thing would be like, yeah, and so I think you should put like more of that. And if you want to keep it informational, then you'll just have to say things about Indiana and then facts about Indiana and stuff like that.
After the child reads the text, the teacher, obviously the routine of the class is for him to be in the share chair, so the text is still behind him, but he can then ask for feedback by looking at the students, so that's good that she's got that system going so that now he can be looking at his audience. So in the writing chair, he's really getting their feedback and choosing who he wants feedback from. The feedback this child is getting kind of aligns with the feedback I was preparing to tell the teacher, that the child's saying, I think it needs to be more persuasive, and then the teacher follows in and says, well, what do you mean by that? And that was really good because teacher's role is to really get the kids to articulate exactly what they mean. And then she said, well, if you want to be persuasive, then you need to add more things like, but if you want it to be informational, then you should just list out things. So now these students are referring to genre, which was my original point that I'm going to make with the teacher in the conference, to really have this child flesh out sort of what he's trying to say and then work on the genre.
Okay. So it was kind of
So maybe add quotes in if you want it to sound sarcastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said you needed help with paragraphs, right? Okay, so I kind of like, I think that like to help you with paragraphs and like where to put them, I like to think of paragraphs like it's every new idea. So you're talking about one idea, and then it's like, and then the next paragraph will be another idea, but it's still based on Indiana.
I don't know what happened there, but the child said something about paragraphs because and the teacher mentioned this in the conference too, he must have one just block of writing. And again, to elaborate on that, you could stop the group as a teacher and say, well, can you with the writer point out some possible areas he could have a paragraph? So to actually work with the writer on, okay, one idea here, one idea here, one idea here. So this child might be having a hard time understanding that, and the kids could actually help him identify that. So instead of just telling him he needs to do that, obviously he needs help doing that, and you could actually stop the share at that point, not stop it, but pause it and say, well, can you help him do that then as a group? can we do that together? And he'll get up and he'll go to his paper and they'll help him identify possible paragraphs, which would be a really useful thing for not only him, but other kids in the class who might have that issue.
You can add the difference between whatever. It doesn't have many big cities in it. Does. So anyway, you could add the difference between like the big city life versus like where you know everybody and around, and instead of there's like 1,000 people around here that you don't know.
So compare the style of living in a big city to the style of living in a small town.
Yep.
So the kids are really good at giving really good suggestions. I think overall what I would recommend is that the paragraph issue came up, and that might be a point where the kids could actually help them identify that. And the other thing I might talk to the teacher about is the kids are great at giving suggestions. And this happens in a lot of classrooms that I observe. The kids really get good at suggestions, which is great, and improving the piece. And this class is really adept at that. But we really want to make sure that the writer gets a lot of competence feedback. And sometimes the kids forget to do that because they go right to what needs to be improved. And what we always want to do in the structures of the conference and the share is make sure the kids the writers are giving a lot of competence feedback on their strengths, because as the more they feel competent and they see where their strengths are growing, the more motivation they'll have to write, the more confidence they have. So sometimes a writing share can gravitate towards just suggestions. So oftentimes I remind teachers, maybe you have to remind the kids to start out with commendations and then recommendations. And some teachers, some classrooms have that where they have the kids do sort of strengths and needs, or ask them to start with commendations and the recommendations. So the writers hear both. And it's hard for the kids to come up with suggestions. It's equally hard for them to come up with what's really good about their piece, and that's important for the writer to hear just as much as a suggestion. So that would be something I would talk to the teacher about, is that I've heard a lot of suggestions, which are great, but that it's important that the kids think of commendations as well.
In your conclusion, you can restate your claim and then
Okay, and ups to Liam.
Bazooka!